By the book or conspiracy theory, something is happening with the WBC rosters.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Rays podcast. Locked On Rays is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And we are Kevin and Ulises.
And we are lifelong Rays fans who have been podcasting about the Tampa Bay Rays since 2019.
Later on today's show, we'll soon have more clarity on the Rays stadium plans in Tampa. In a few minutes, the Rays believe that Gavin Lux is primed for a big year. But to start, the WBC roster eligibility rules aren't making sense.
And we're going to talk about all of that thanks to FanDuel. Today's episode. FanDuel, people, it's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Kevin, something fishy is going on with the WBC rosters.
Do tell.
Well, all right, people. So if you haven't been on the TLs lately, Puerto Rico threatened to pull out of the WBC as they see many of their players, including captain Francisco Lindor, being ineligible to play due to insurance, not willing to pay if something happens during the tournament. In fact, Puerto Rico has the most out of all the countries being denied, and the players are Lindor, Correa, Berrios, Caratini, Rios, Moran, Pagan, Diaz. That's a lot of them.
Heck, at that point, they might as well pull out if they're not letting any of those dudes play.
So imagine if, 8 out of the best 10 players of the U.S. were not allowed to play. It's a lot. And the DR has it with Eli de la Cruz. Venezuela has it with Altuve, Miguel Rojas, Martin Perez, Carlos Narvaez, and possibly Wilson Contreras. So where's the incongruency here? It's because how is Byron Buxton playing for the U.S.? And how is an insurance company not saying, hey, Byron Buxton, we're not going to be in charge of paying if something happens to you, Byron Buxton? Because if I were to ask any baseball fan that is listening to Locked On Rays, and I tell them, hey, I'll give you 30 seconds to tell me about who Byron Buxton is. Within those 30 seconds, Kevin, the word injury is going to come up rather quickly.
Actually, when you Google baseball injury or look it up in Merriam-Webster, it does show a big blasting picture of Byron Buxton. Extremely talented, fun to watch player. And when he's available, like if he played a true 150 game season, he'd be like a 7-WAR player. But
100%.
instead, you get like 34 games of him, 19 games of him, 81 games of him. You think Brandon Lau got injured a lot? Ooh, let me introduce you to Byron Buxton.
Exactly. So that's one of the incongruencies. Another incongruency is Aaron Judge, the captain for the U.S. team. His arm, I read this on social media. I don't remember who said it, but it was like Aaron Judge's arm was pulled pork in the middle of the season where he only could play in DH. And when he was put in right field, he had to lob the baseballs back into the infield because he had nothing in that arm. And he's allowed to play. And it's not like Aaron Judge and Byron Buxton are being paid $5 million so the insurance companies can be like, well, it's a low salary. No, these are high-paid players. So what's the deal, as our friend Jerry Seinfeld would say? Well, it's been so noticeable, Kevin, that not only Puerto Rico has threatened to pull out of the WBC, but the Venezuelan Federation released a statement today saying that in any competition, there must be fairness and justice. The situations that have arisen with the denial of participation to players from various member countries, such as the DR, Venezuela, and Puerto Rico, among others, detract from the spectacle and the enjoyment of the fans who want to see the best players from each team on the field. For this reason, we urge MLBPA to defend the players' participation against MLB team insurance policies. And we also request that MLB and these insurance companies agree on an equitable and fair approval process. Kevin, what say you about this whole thing happening right before rosters have to be approved in a couple of days from now?
Well, if I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here, I might presume that this is a ploy, a coup to ensure that the U.S. makes it to the finals and or wins the whole dang thing. That's all I can think of, based on some of the guys that are eligible for the U.S. roster and some of the guys that likely are not eligible, seeming Latin American rosters. And I'll say this, something has to be done because as far as the interest of the World Baseball Classic, maybe I'm in the minority of this, but as an American that was born in the States, it still doesn't have the cachet. Like, in all honesty, I'd rather watch spring training baseball versus the World Baseball Classic. So I don't know if this is some maneuver to try to generate more interest in the WBC from the US fan base. I don't know what to make of it, but I would think that, look, it's not like these, hey, you're signing an agreement to play baseball. It's not like you're signing an agreement to go skydiving or ride four-wheelers in Mexico. Like, you're doing what they're trained and paid to do. If anything, look, injuries are going to happen in an off-season workout, in a spring training game, in a World Baseball Classic game, in a regular season game. I get all that. But I would think that something as meaningful and as big as the World Baseball Classic, especially to the Latin American players and players from other countries outside of the US, that they are more ready physically for the task. And maybe that lessens the injury risk where you're kind of going full bore rather than, hey, it's a spring training game, I'm going to lollygag around. That's where the injuries happen, frankly.
Exactly. And some of these players that have already been denied, they were ramping up for the WBC, and even some of them had already played in the Winter League to get ready for the WBC a little bit faster than being, like you're saying, cold, as soon as the pitchers and catchers report. So, yeah, I it's tough because I don't want to be a conspiracy, theorist about this, but I needed to talk about this with you because it's just, from my lens, it's very skewed. And a part of me is thinking MLB ate it up in 23 when you had the US and Japan going head to head, and the last bleeping out being a tremendous AB with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. Like, that was they could not have scripted that better. And the conspiracy theorist in me is thinking they want it again.
Yeah, and I would just say that the WBC would pretty much be rendered meaningless if the DR, Venezuela, and Puerto Rico, among others, are not part of the thing. That's the whole point, really,
That's
isn't it?
Point. And like, you've seen those clips and those games in Miami, bro. Venezuela DR, Puerto Rico DR, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, like, they are intense. It's like every pitch, it's like the World Series. It's very lively.
Yes.
So I think if your aim is to grow the sport, you can't grow the sport with guys that are in AA, AAA, or that are so old that the insurance companies don't care. Clayton Kershaw, for example,
Right.
he doesn't have to be insured, right? Because he doesn't have a team to play for. Like, so obviously he's going to get in, but like, Puerto Rico doesn't have a Clayton Kershaw in the back pocket, and Venezuela doesn't either. So like, it's just a little bit skewed, and it just makes me think, what is going on?
Maybe with Byron Buxton, they're like, hey, he's going to get injured either way, no matter when or what time. So, all right, let's just let him play. But to your point, I mean, the Latin American players, many of them are bigger names, bigger household names, and more important to the brand of Major League Baseball when you look at a Francisco Lindor. But then again, you bring up, how is Aaron Judge allowed to play? So that's where the mix-up is, if you will.
Exactly.
So ultimately, do you think that any of these nations will back out of the WBC?
I don't think Puerto Rico will back out. They're also hosting this year. So you're also doing a detriment by not letting their bleeping stars play in their home ballpark. Like, that's just an insanity viewpoint. But I do think that because of this letter, this communication, the threatening from the Puerto Rico Federation baseball president, I feel like there might be some instigation from MLBPA saying, "Hey, we got to do something about this.
Right.
We if our aim is to grow the sport worldwide to make it better, so we have the best players available around the world to play in our sport that we love, we gotta do this. We gotta let the big stars for each country play, because imagine if on a World Cup, Messi, Ronaldo, they wouldn't be allowed to play. Like that would be insanity.
That's not quite a World Cup then.
No.
If you're missing those key pieces. All right, moving on from the WBC to second base, let's talk Gavin Lux's hopeful career year. Every game day during NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instinct, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. And so go ahead, visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you want to take it up a level for just $5, you can join the Everydayer Club and get this podcast with no ads, no interruptions, and members-only Discord. Go to lockedonrays.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Gavin Lux seems to be primed for a great year, or are we just eating the Rays propaganda, Ulises? There's been an article or multiple articles that have come up as we've neared spring training where it more or less says, hey, the Rays are bullish on Gavin Lux and they expect, I don't know if I want to say monster year, but basically a career year, very, very solid production across the board. For one, new environment with teammates that he knows from previous organizations, and the fact that it is that contract year. And usually when guys are in a contract year going into free agency, they bump it up a level or two.
Yeah, and you mentioned at least he's not coming into a locker room where he doesn't know anybody from the Dodgers days. He's got Johnny DeLuca, Garrett Clevenger, Ryan Pepio, and from Cincinnati, he's got Jake Fraley. And I'm sure that Terry Francona gave him some stories about Kevin Cash on his way out the door too. So it's a locker room that he at least has some people that he can gravitate towards in the beginning and go from there. He is also, like you said, in his last year before free agency, and that is might be the biggest year for every MLB player, honestly. At least the ones that are not the Hall of Fame type players. The everybody else.
Yeah.
This is
Gavin Lux isn't getting a $60 million a year contract like Kyle Tucker. He's not getting what Bo Bichette's getting. He's not getting what fill in the blank free agent is getting. He's not getting what Schwarber's getting. Like, really, Gavin Lux, if he has a strong year, let's hope he has a strong year for the Rays' sake. But I don't know, maybe a 3-year, $15 million, something, 4-year, $25 million. Which, again, if you're Gavin Lux, that's great. I mean, that sets you up. I mean, we talked about Junior Caminero and how he would he would just walk away from $175 million guaranteed. Gavin Lux is on a completely different wavelength than those types of players.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great bag for Gavin Lux, if everything goes well, a 4-year, $50 million. Boom, you got your deal, man. That's awesome. Good for you. So that's also something that can, push and propel him to having a great year. At least that's what we want to say to us on February 2nd, before spring training has even started. But on the other side, Kevin, the article that I saw in the Tampa Bay Times, like, propaganda might be a little bit too harsh of a word, but it's February, man. And like, you get hopeful, you think good things, and no, we're primed for Gavin Lux to have a career year. But like, okay, tell me, Kevin, if Gavin Lux has a career year, first of all, what does that look like? And then I'll have a second question after you tell me a made up slash line.
I would say a career year is basically what he did with Cincinnati, but in 145 games with a few more home runs. That's about what we're looking at. 270 batting average, 740 OPS, maybe double-digit home runs, bunch of doubles, really good defense and on-base percentage, which, to Gavin Lux's credit, the idea is that he should be a little bit better defensively than Brandon Lau. He should get on base at a higher clip than Brandon Lau. While he can't match the home runs, he should give you, 25 to 30 doubles. And the other thing that works in his favor is the Rays have told him from the onset is that we don't need you moving around from third to first to second to short or outfield. However many positions he played in the past, we understand that you're most comfortable and confident at second base, and that's where we're going to play you, at least until July 30th or July 31st, whenever the trade deadline is.
I think August 2nd or August 3rd.
August 2nd,
yeah. But okay, so that's a really good slash line, and I really hope that not only he hits that, but he even goes above and beyond that. Okay, so that's my first question to you. My second question to you about Gavin Lux is, even if he does have that career year, what does that mean for the Rays?
It really doesn't mean all that much in terms.
Does it move the needle on being a 72-win team player to be a playoff contender?
I would think Gavin Lux at his best is like a 1.7 to 2 WAR player. That's what we're asking for, maybe a couple wins, which, to my point in that joke about the trade deadline, I think the idea is bring him in, coach him up a little bit, have him provide some veteran leadership to the other young players on the roster. You hope he goes off. And then let's just assume that the Rays are 12, 15 games under 500 by the start of August 2026. You can hopefully get a little bit of return for him. You might even get a little bit of a return for Cedric Mullins. You might even get a little bit of return for Steven Matz. Like that's I think why these guys are brought in to, give it a shot, be competitive as best you can. But ultimately, we might just try to get some more prospects at the deadline.
I think so. And that's why, are we buying the Rays propaganda, or does Gavin Lux actually seem to be primed for a great year? And honestly,
I think a great year by Gavin Lux standards. I mean,
yeah. And again, that's a good stat line that you gave me. You know what? I'll even buy a career year for Gavin Lux. He could be approaching an 800 OPS. It's a career year is a career year, folks. So but I think the Rays propaganda here with that article is rather heavy and rather thick. And I think maybe even if all things happen as we want them to, ultimately in the W column, which is the most important column, it's just not really going to be a needle mover.
And honestly, at the end of the day, it'll probably, depending on what Brandon Lau does and how healthy he is with Pittsburgh, it'll be a net loss in the WAR column from having Brandon Lau to not have, or from not having Brandon Lau to having Gavin Lux.
That's a good one, and we're not going to answer it right now, but maybe we should think about a segment where who is going to have a higher WAR this year, Gavin Lux or Brandon Lau?
Oh, that might have to be a segment later on this week. We are back to 5 days a week, so we need content ideas. If you have content ideas, put them in the YouTube comments there, and we'll try to broach it if we can. Same thing for mailbag questions. We always appreciate those. All right, moving on. Stadium Talk should have more details for all Rays fans this week. Thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast and making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network in all the land. later on this week, or as soon as Tuesday, I should say, should bring more clarity on the Tampa Stadium plans, as MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will be in Tampa evidently on Tuesday for a news conference, a press conference on the HCC site. Ulises, what do you make of all this?
Well, I hope we get some details. I know that we want all of it. We want the renderings. We want the dollar figure. We want to know where the dollar figure is coming from. How much is it coming from their pockets? How much from the
Is it
state
really
county?
a $2.3 billion stadium?
Is it really a $2.3 bleeping billion stadium that we're talking about here?
Yeah.
All of that. We want all of that. I don't think that on Tuesday at 10 a.m. we will get all of those things, but I think some crumbs should come out, and obviously they will be reported by the great Evan Klosky and Colleen Wright, friends of the pod and company. But the new ownership is also expected to attend.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, they're kind of required to at this point. If Rob Manfred is in a room and Governor Ron DeSantis is in the same room, and you want public money and help, you better be there.
You better be there. So, I would think that with all of those key players there, it shouldn't be just fluff.
No.
You have a very big opportunity there with the governor, with the commissioner of baseball, with your ownership in your planned site for a stadium. There should be some good details coming out from that meeting, and hopefully we're gonna get some more information, because at this moment in time, Kevin, we have zero. Really.
Right. Well, but I think this is a good inkling that you have the power players together singing Kumbaya, and Manfred, DeSantis, the ownership group, and then I'm sure there will be representatives from the city, the county, the Tampa Sports Authority, the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. And I know that the governor has said he will not help finance the actual construction of the stadium, but there are certainly other ways to help. There's ways to help with sewers, roads, other public components, parking garage, perhaps, anything that you can put under the guise of economic development. And I think another key piece, we had mentioned it when we were on with Sully couple weeks ago, is money towards the actual rebuild or construction of not the stadium, but the Hillsborough College portion of things.
Right.
I think that's where a lot or a bulk of the funding can help come through. And then it'll really at that point be on the ownership group, angel investors, the city and county to come up with the rest for the actual construction of the stadium. But based on all this and all we've seen of late, it does appear that momentum is certainly building for getting this thing done in Tampa.
Yeah, and a Tampa Sports Authority board meeting should happen that same day in the afternoon, and the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority board meeting will happen this week on Thursday, which should, again, give us more information on that. The Sports Authority, there will be a vote on whether to recommend that Tampa and Hillsborough should be conducting some economic studies on the stadium plan. So, again, this week should give us a little bit more clarity. Again, not a lot of known quantities or figures or ideas, but man, I'm always a sucker for those renderings. So maybe
those renderings and those quotes and those comments, I'm sure we will have much to talk about. I'm curious, just hoping it's not just, basic crap that is said and thrown against the wall, like meaningful conversation and comments that we can divulge from the governor and the ownership group and Rob Manfred, I think will be critical. And again, if this thing doesn't get done, there's a city, a community, 80 miles away that would love to have a ballpark. And I'm talking about Orlando. And who knows, maybe if a new state, not to turn this to an Orlando conversation, but if a new stadium,
then let's not.
I know one thing here though, if a new stadium gets built in Tampa, the fact that Orlando is being brought up in the conversation could maybe ultimately allow them to get an expansion franchise one day, way down the road, I would think, because, I mean, baseball has trouble enough supporting 2 major league teams in the state of Florida. So you add a third in such close proximity to the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know how all that's going to work, but yes, I am looking forward to the play-by-play from Evan Klosky and Colleen Wright. And with that, we might have to have one of those individuals on the show later this week or next week to give us the dirty details for all that. Put it in the comments what you think of this forthcoming press conference and meeting and everything that will be happening surrounding that. And we'll try to check them out later on. On that note, we hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we want to remind you that if you want to take it up a level for just $5, you can join the Everydayer Club and get this podcast with no ads, no interruptions, and members only Discord. Go to lockedonrays.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn